meeting.
Apologize. Thank you, Daryl. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Sorry, guys. It's so new to me.
No problem.
Thanks, Daryl.
I'll just call the meeting to order of the Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors. It's 12:32 on September 11, 2020. And we are meeting by Zoom due to present circumstances. So for agenda item number 2, introduction of member, staff, and guests. Christina, you want to start?
Sure. Christina DeLuna, Executive Director.
Okay, Leslie?
Leslie Pohl, public member.
Steve?
Stephen Hallbauer, public member.
And I'm Stephen Christopherson, the professional member. Brenda, you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Okay, you got to unmute.
Okay,
there you go.
There you go. Okay. Hi, I'm Brenda Compagnoni, professional member.
Okay, Janie?
Janie Stubblefield, professional member.
Loretta?
I'm Dr. Loretta Bradley, professional member.
Dr. Taylor?
Dr. Christopher Taylor, professional member. Also, Roy Smith is here, but as an attendee, not as a participant.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go with Patrick. Got to unmute yourself.
Patrick Hyde, BHEC General Counsel.
Let's see where we're at. Daryl, I see you're on there.
Sir, Daryl Spanks, ED for the council.
Okay. Can y'all see anyone else that I wasn't able to get to?
I'm looking for Reverend Smith, but he does say that he is here. So I'll get him over once he's on, once I can
Okay,
get it.
Yeah, I think you just followed the wrong link, Christina. I think you got into the attendee side.
Yeah, I'm looking for him in there.
Dr. Taylor, do you know what screen name he's under, that he logged in under?
That's what I was.
It was Roy Smith is what I saw.
Pastor Roy. Oh, he joined.
There he is.
There he is. Okay.
Pastor Roy, you want to introduce yourself?
Pastor Smith, you are muted. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to introduce. There you go.
All right. I am Pastor Roy, public member.
Thank you for being here.
Glad to have you. Very good. Glad to have y'all. Anyone else that I've missed?
So Dr. Abraham will be a little bit late to the meeting, but she will be here as soon as she can.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go ahead and we can proceed, right? Agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action concerning approval of minutes from February 7th and May 15th. And I'm seeing July 9th board meetings. So let's start with February 7th. I'm looking for a motion to accept those.
I so move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And board members, if I can ask you guys to go ahead and say your name when you are making the motions, just for meeting minute purposes, that would be wonderful. I know the voice, but other people may not yet, so I appreciate it.
Okay. I have the minutes, we're looking at May 15th. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
I
Janie
so move.
Stubblefield makes a motion.
Janie Stubblefield made a motion. And a second.
Brenda
Seconds.
seconds. Brenda.
All right, Brenda Campion, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Okay. Signing those. And then we also have, I'm looking for my minutes for, and I can grab those, for July 9th meeting. Okay.
Loretta Bradley, I move accept.
Thank you, Loretta. Do we hear a second?
Pastor Roy. Pastor Roy was second.
Thank you, Pastor Roy. And all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We are under a time constraint, so thank you for working with us on that quickly. So agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding final order in the following cases. Christina, you want to take that?
Absolutely. So the first case is 1061-15-0194, where the board and the respondent agreed to a letter of reprimand. This is a case where Vice Chair Taylor and Attorney Haubauer will have to recuse themselves, so they will not be able to vote on this case.
Okay.
Should I walk out of the room or something, or are
No,
we good?
just can't.
Because my coffee's over there, so I can like, if you needed to.
All right. So we'll do this
Coffee.
case by case. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Motion to accept by
And who-
Leslie.
Leslie, okay. And I'll second. This is Steve Christopherson. All in favor, aye.
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 Okay.
The next case is 1061-16-0081, where the board and the respondent agreed to a 6-month probated suspension with stipulations.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Brenda Compagnoni makes a motion to accept.
Leslie
Amy Stubblefield
seconds.
seconds.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
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 Okay, so 1061-16-0069 will be offered an informal settlement conference, so we will not be hearing that case today. And the last case is 1061-15-0095, where the board and the respondent agreed to a letter of reprimand.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept. Can I get a second?
Jamie
I'll second
Stubblefield
the motion.
seconds.
Okay, so Steve Christopherson made the motion. I heard Janie Stubblefield second. All in favor, aye.
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 Okay, does that take care of those, Christina?
It does.
All right, agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding recommendations to the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council for changes to the code, chapter 681.92 concerning licensed professional counselors. You want to kind of give us an introduction on that?
Yes, absolutely. So back in May, the board did propose some language for this specific rule for 681.92. We were trying to find a way to help the individuals from out of state related to the number of hours of supervised experience. Unfortunately, it was kicked back, so we're going to have to try and find another way around that in the future. But at this point, we just need to, we're going to withdraw what was originally proposed in May, and we're going to propose this new language. Now, the new language only, the only changes is we're changing intern to associate, and we're changing board to council. So those are the only changes that we're now going to be proposing.
And if I can just add just a tiny bit to that, this was the rule where we were trying to create better mobility for out-of-state folks. And, you know, we like the idea of it. The problem is there's a statutory requirement listed in the and there's a issue with the statute where we can't violate what the statute says. And so there was some concerns brought up in the meeting, but what we tried to do is we had to run it by the governor's office, and the governor's office, I think they liked the idea, but they said this goes too far from the statute. It goes beyond your statutory authority. So unfortunately, they said this is going to have to come up in the next legislative session to make a change so that we can do a rule like this. So I like the rule personally. It just, and unfortunately, you know, we couldn't make those changes because of the statutes. I don't think will allow us to do so. So.
We did identify that statutory change as something that's being needed in our strategic plan, which the governor's office is aware of, and I've made several legislative staff aware of that as well. So we are putting that out there. That's a change that needs to take place. Something I'll also bring up in our post-sunset wrap-up when we come back.
That's
okay,
great.
so they know it's in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What were you going to say, Dr. Taylor?
I was just going to say, so it's not a no, it's just a not right now, and we're kind of headed in that direction, and we're all on the same page with what needs to occur. Perfect.
Right, and one just final bit of clarification. So what we did was we didn't propose to repeal it. It's still out there, but it's kind of floating on its own. And so this is cleanup language to bring it back under the subchapters as we proposed So we would propose to repeal it and because it'll be in a subchapter all by its own, and then make these conforming changes as to putting associate instead of intern as are listed in the rule.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to repeal it?
Please repeal the current rule and replace it with this particular rule. Yes, please.
Okay, that's my motion, that we repeal it and replace it with this.
Second.
Second, I heard, is that Dr. Taylor?
Yes.
Oh. And all in favor, aye.
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 Thank you. All right,
Thank
and
you.
we move to, go ahead, what?
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding review of public comments and recommendation of adoption of proposed amendments concerning licensure and regulation. These went out for public comment. You all have a copy of it. There are some things that stood out to me that I think we can address. One, there was an overwhelming majority of people that wanted to keep the religious practitioner statement in our rules. I don't see a problem with that for clarification. They made some good points. Any discussion or thoughts there?
My only question was, what was the reasoning for taking it out, Daryl? Didn't we have something with BHEC on that?
I apologize. I was focused on something else. What was the question?
Taking out the, go ahead, Steve.
No, go ahead. You got it.
I was just taking out the religious practitioner portion in the rules while we were removing that. I thought that had something to do with the transition into behavioral health executive council.
Yeah. So if I recall correctly, and I've looked at many rules since we last did this, so I may be not remembering 100% correctly, but if I remember correctly, I know we had an emailed version back with Christina and myself and Daryl. I don't remember off the top of my head that this was something that myself or Daryl had identified. I think Christina was maybe something that a board member had identified. But that being said, the one of the things I would say for the reason for repealing this is when I look through the rules, so you would define something because you're going to use it in the rules later on. And I will remember when my review, and I could be incorrect, but I don't remember this term being used throughout the rules. And so if you're not going to use the term, there's no need for it, the definition. The definition doesn't do anything. The other thing I think I just wanted to point out too is, so BHEC has a rule already on the books. It's 882.31, and it's protections based on affiliations of religious organizations. It's the title of that rule. So there's already, and it cites to chapter 2400 of the government code. So it already follows that sort of, I think, and I could be wrong, that it may not, but my understanding is the general principles of that are embodied in that particular BHEC rule. But if it's used elsewhere in the rules, we can certainly talk about it. I just don't see the need for a definition if it's not going to be used anywhere else in the rules.
I understand. It's just we got a preponderance of people that wanted it for clarification, and whether I don't think it helps or hurts, but I do know a lot of people weighed in on this and wanted that for clarification. I'm glad. Yeah, go ahead.
What we're talking about here is we've got a defined term that isn't used anywhere in the rules.
I'm trying to find where it was used, and Christina, help me if you know, but I couldn't find a particular spot where I can remember it was.
Yeah, I don't believe it is, Patrick. I think it was probably done in the cleanup effort to make everything simpatico as we moved over to Behavioral Health Executive Council. And it looks like it's probably just being, it just looks bad. I guess it's got bad optics. So.
All right. So what are y'all's feelings about it? Any thoughts? I think MFT, are they keeping it in?
I don't know that answer.
I don't recall that being a term in their rules off the top of my head. I can try to look real quick, but I don't recall it being a defined
Okay.
term. I'll try to find it though real fast.
And I don't see it used in the rules anywhere else. Religion, yeah, no, that it's nowhere else.
Well, like I said, because I read a lot of public comment that they wanted it for clarification to make the distinction, and I don't think that part hurts. Other ones, yeah, we might rub some feathers. This one didn't seem to be anything that would go for or against anyone, but that's what they were asking for, and that was pretty overwhelming in their comments. So I don't see how it's an issue leaving it if it's not anywhere else in our rules, but everyone has clarification, that we acknowledge it. I don't think it hurts.
It can cause problems later on, though, Chair Christopherson, if you've got a defined term in there and it's not referenced in any other rule. That can cause problems for the agency later on when people start referencing that and asking how to apply or trying to apply it themselves.
I just looked up the LMFT rules, and there is this same defined term, and it is in the LMFT rules. Recognized religious practitioner is in their definition section for LMFTs.
Is that in the rules that have recently been adopted, Patrick?
Yes.
It stayed in there?
It stayed in there.
Is that coming from the statute, the statutory exemption? Is that where that term is coming from?
It is. They make a reference to the CFR, so it's 26 CFR federal section 1.6033-2H. They're talking about that is a religious organization, and I think that's tax code is what that's referencing.
I'm talking about in 503 of the occupations code is where I'm wanting to look.
Oh.
.054.
Mr. Chair, while they're looking that up, I don't see an issue with leaving it in for right now, at least. If we come to a place where it causes a problem, then we reassess and solve that problem.
Right. It's kind of how we do some things. It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't help us. We've got the backup, through, state law too. But what I'm saying is that we had a lot of people weigh in on that. And I want them to certainly know that they were heard. If it doesn't hurt us, I don't think it's a problem going with what we heard with public comment. But I am open to hearing from certainly Daryl and Patrick on if it's going to be an issue.
They leave it in right now. We can always revisit it if it's a problem. It looks like it may not be used in your rules. It may come from your applicability statute, what I would call your exemption statute. I think that's where that term is coming from.
One of the things I noticed looking at it is in that definition, it says they may not hold themselves as a professional counselor. So they may not use the title of professional counselor.
And that's what we've done in the past where we had to involve the Attorney General's office ordering, make a cease and desist order. And that gave us a little bit of bite on that. And people would clean it up. I mean, they would, they went with it really well. So
Patrick,
that's what I'm, go ahead.
Patrick, if we leave it in, is that going to cause a substantive, non-substantive issue problem on the proposal?
We just proposed to repeal it, but we're not going to repeal it, basically. It was proposed to be stricken. So we're choosing not to strike it. So, and it's responsive to comments of people saying, we want you to keep it. So
And it's just one part of a rule, right? We're not
it's just the definition, if I remember, Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just that defined term. So I think we're fine to say we won't repeal what we already have. So
Yeah, leave it in. Let's move on.
forward.
Okay. Let's go on to the next thing I saw was the non-discriminant statement. That's federal law, that's state law, that's out there. I did notice in public comment, and people wanted it, but what I want to make sure we're already covered by that because it applies to the board. And what I noticed is some people were thinking that it was applying to all LPCs, that, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to start seeing 5-year-olds right now, and I only see adults, or, whatever. So for clarification, I think it's already there. We don't have to have it in our rules because we have it on other levels. And I know it can be confusing to people if they don't know that it applies strictly to the board. We cannot discriminate, and we're pretty clear on that. So I'm fine for striking that. Thoughts?
This is Loretta. I'm concerned about striking that because I think that is a real important issue, and understand what you're saying, but sometimes if something isn't spelled out, it gets neglected. So I'd be interested in hearing from the attorney, what's the consequences here? It concerns me a lot.
Sure. So
But keep it spelled out
I know.
on federal state levels. So go ahead, Patrick. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So Chair Christopherson is correct. There's state law, there's federal law, but not only, so the rule 681.13 is the impartiality and non-discrimination. All of that language is in BHEC's compact with Texas. So if you go to BHEC's website, down the links right there, there's a link on there that says compact with Texas, and it's all the promises from the agency to the people of Texas. We are going to do these things. And part of that compact with Texas is this already there. So, I mean, it's sort of, to me, it's already addressed and covered. It's covered under BHEC. And so to me, it's not necessary because we already have it, I guess. Plus there's other state law, there's federal law. Part of what we wanted to do with the review is take any rules that might be redundant and strip those out because we wanted to streamline the rules as best as possible. And so I know this, we don't want to make it look like we're now going to start discriminating. We're certainly not, but there are other things that we must abide by, and we won't be doing it. It's sort of a duplicative rule. So that's why.
Okay.
If we get sued for discrimination, it won't be under that rule. It's going to be under federal and state law.
I understand that. I guess I'm still concerned. I'm happy to hear that it's covered, but how do we let the general public know that when we remove it from 681.13, that it still is covered someplace? Because the perception is going to be this board removed this. And I think that's a very important part of what we do and what we stand for. So I'm concerned about deleting something that I definitely believe in. And number two, I'm not sure that John Q or Jane Q public will understand that we're not really deleting it. It's covered elsewhere. So how do we make that known?
It would be in the response to the comments when we send them to the register. We respond to the comment and we say, we understand, people are concerned about this rule being repealed, but this is covered under, the requirements aren't going away. It's covered by the compact that BHEC, the agency, has with all the people of Texas. So I would think the general public is more likely to look at our website than actually go look at our rules, which would be nice sometimes, if they looked at the rules as well. But on the website, it has right there, they can read it, and it's spelled out for them essentially what this rule is saying. It may not be verbatim, but it's the gist of what this is saying. So I think in our response, what's important is when we respond to the comment that we take it seriously, but we let them know this is not going away. We're still going to comply with this. We're just going through and deleting rules so that they're not duplicative. And this requirement still exists. The agency will still comply with these, but we're putting that in our compact with Texas, that this is what we are saying we will abide by. And we're already required to abide by it. So we just want to make sure we list that in the response to the comment.
I'll say one more thing, and Steve, I won't say anything more except to say when I was reading these comments, apparently TCA misinterpreted this based on their comments. And if an agency, TCA strongly disagrees with removing this rule. And, you know, that's an important group here in Texas. And if they misinterpreted it, I think other people will. So I'll stop with that, except to say I'm still very concerned.
I understand. Although we're removing the rule from our rules, we're still covered by it on different levels, multi-levels as a matter of fact. So we're aware of that. It just caused a lot of confusion with people and fear with them thinking that they would have to see anybody and everybody. Yeah, certainly if you work with an agency, you're under the agency, but I think it doesn't cause that fear by removing it, but we are underneath jurisdiction, state, federal, and BHEC. It's all going to be there. I think anyone could make that call too to find out. So we're just trying to clean everything up, which is like duplicity, is like Patrick was talking about. We've been trying to clean up rules for the past 4 years, and I don't think there's a need for this because it's so covered in other areas. Okay. So a couple more things that I have. The intern to associate, we got an overwhelming response of people wanting that. There were some that did not, but for the most part, they wanted that. It makes the biggest point I think made was that it distinguishes from a student to an actual practitioner. That's you close the doors of people, so I think that helps make a distinction there. So any other discussion on intern to associate? Okay. We had some art therapy questions come up. It's certainly a specialty. It takes a whole lot of work to get the specialty. It's an expressive modality. They were wanting it to be a counseling related field. And at this time, I don't think we do that. But it's definitely a part of the rules, and they get a lot of credibility for everything they have to go through to get that. That does make them specialists, in their area when they attain that. One of the things that they were letting us know is that the accreditation agency that accredits them is changing, and let's see. Did y'all get that? Do you remember getting that? The agency that accredits them, it's like the American Art Therapy Association and the Accreditation Council for Art Therapy Education are two entities. But I think specifically it's the Accreditation Council for Art Therapy Education is taking that over. It's now the organization that accredits these. So I think that needs to be noted. And if we need to use that for accreditation, that's fine. The American Art Therapy Association is in the process of phasing that part out. So they were giving us information for accreditation purposes.
And that wasn't for a future date, right? It hadn't happened yet. It was going to though, right?
It's like a 5-year phase-in date
Okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I appreciated hearing that because I think that's going to be important. Did y'all come up with other things in the rules as you, or the public comment as you saw? Because that's pretty much it. We had talked in BHEC, I believe it was, that the important thing is a license number. Different people will have different names. They have married names. They set up their practice, or they have maiden names. They set up their practice. They have their license. They have, they're known by that name and they get married. It's the number. It's that license number that counts. And so some people were worried about that and chimed in on it. Any thoughts there, Daryl, on what's on your wall as far as your name goes? Maiden versus married?
The only thing I would, as far as a licensee, no. I don't see the need to update you don't have to update your calligraphy license simply because your name changes, what's hanging on the wall. Because again, like you said, it's the license number. You can verify that online now easily. to see who it is you're actually sitting across the desk from. The one thing name issue becomes important is for applicants, because now that we're doing fingerprint background checks for applicants, it's important to have your legal name with whatever you gave to DPS and the FBI when you had your fingerprints done, or otherwise it becomes very difficult to match those two records up. So from a licensee's perspective, no, we don't really care if your license has your maiden name or not on it.
Okay. Two more things.
The only thing I would caution some people on is if you're using a DBA as an individual practitioner, if you're using a DBA, there's some separate laws out there that you want to make sure you follow, like the Assumed Names Act under the Business and Commerce Code or Business Organization Code. I can't remember. There's some tricky little provisions there that you have to follow that aren't our doing, so don't yell at us whenever you go read them. But there are some things there that you got to watch out for.
Okay. Someone wanted to have unlimited times to test. I think that's set to us at 3. And so we can't really make changes on that. One more thing is relevant factors. And I thought this was important. And the comment basically was that licensing boards will manage the complaint process. This came from TCA2. We do agree that change in process merits the removal of this rule. They just recommend very strongly that the information be readily available on the complaints section of the BHEC website as to relevant factors. And I think we can do that. Because that was their big concern is, and we're talking about 681.202. They were saying keep it, retain it, and if it's removed, to make sure it's somewhere where people know what relevant factors are. Discussion on that?
That's actually already in BHEX rules. If you look under the disciplinary guidelines, I believe is what it's under BHEX rules, you will find those types of factors are already listed in rule again under BHEX.
Okay. And I thought so, just for clarification and public comment to give them, that ear. Any other discussion on the rules? Yes, Patrick.
I was going to say, yeah, it's 884.20 is the BHEC rule that has all that already transferred listed in it.
Okay. Other discussion?
The only other thing I'd like to add, just make sure and add, is the criminal history language will also, that was another attachment that I sent you guys that we need to also talk about during this section.
Go ahead, bring it up. Let's talk.
Yeah, I mean, I can well,
Go for
I
it.
don't want to cut you off if you want to go ahead and.
No, you go ahead.
Take it. Okay. So one of the issues we've come up with, and this was an issue that came up with the LMFT board, and essentially we had some, the criminal history language go through and then get reviewed by the governor. And while the governor's office hasn't had a chance to review all of the LPC rules yet, so we are waiting to hear back from them to hear if they are requesting changes or not. We know that the criminal history rule was something that we spent a lot of time with LMFT and got reviewed by the governor's office. And essentially they've told us, if you use essentially this model, this rule going forward, it doesn't need to be re-reviewed by the governor's office. So I highly suspect that the current rule that's been sent up there for review will not meet their approval. And so what was sent to you was sort of an attachment, sort of a quick sort of memo explaining why we have to do this rule. What are the factors we have to consider when adopting this rule? Also, the version is the strike through of what we proposed up. We currently went out for proposal, and then the last part of it is a shorter version of that particular rule that the governor's office has said this will meet their approval. And so the recommendation is to withdraw the proposal and then re-propose this criminal history rule separately. I hope I'm covering all of that, but I'm sure you may have some questions. I'll stop there and see if you have any questions, because there's a lot more to it I can talk about.
Is that something we do separate? We do a separate vote to repeal it and then go forward with the new one, or what?
If you want to do it all in a really long motion or in separate motions, that's completely up to you guys, how you'd like to do it. All I know is that I am almost 100% certain the governor's office is not going to approve the current criminal history rule that went up. So it's probably better to go ahead and vote to withdraw that, move up all the other rules to the council for adoption, and vote to withdraw this and repropose it as this new rule. The other thing I'll add, just as a side note that I don't think needs any action here, but that it came up with LMFT, was the military licensing rule. They had some issues. So what we had done was take the policies that were issued by the board and move them into the rule. The governor's office had some issues with that, with the policy that the LMFT had used. And so we worked through, we had spent a long time working through a revision of that rule. I suspect we will probably have a similar issue with that, but we haven't heard back from the governor's office and been given any direction on it. So I would recommend just moving forward with that military rule as we have it right now. And then if we hear back from them, it may be something that needs to come back and get revisited by the board for republication, reproposing, I guess.
Steve, may I suggest that we vote individually, because there's one of these I'm not going to vote for. So if you put it as a group, you're going to force me to vote no on all of them, because I'm not going to support the non-discrimination.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That we can do them individually. So let's start with the criminal matrix. If you're through a discussion on that. So that's a repeal and go forward with what you have, correct? Right, Patrick?
The new 681.164 rule, correct, yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion to repeal and go forward with what you're proposing that you think will do better on that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Dr. Taylor seconded, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. What was the other one how do I address that? I think.
Well, I guess the other would be, you had talked about some of the comments, and I think if you wanted to talk about, if you wanted to suggest them, originally I was thinking the whole rule package, but you may just
The whole package.
Yeah, but you may want to take that one particular comment, because Ms. Bradley may not be opposed to the rest of it. It just may be that particular one. So if it's that particular one, you might want to address that one separately. Does that help, I think?
Sure. Yeah. Loretta, you good with that? Okay. All right. You're muted, Loretta.
Sorry. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the non-discrimination, because I don't think there's any reason to preclude the inclusion of this rule. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay. And I make the motion to go forward with the rule. We know how you're voting. We haven't voted yet. Do I hear a second for that? I'm talking about a second for removing the rule because it's covered in other places. Do I hear a second for removal?
I second it.
Who said that?
Pastor Roy.
Okay, Pastor Roy. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? Say no.
No.
Brenda and Loretta. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Now,
sorry, Chair Christopherson. Christina said that was for 681.31, I believe, right?
Yeah, 1-3.
1-3.
That's okay. Yes, I got it. 681.13.
Okay. Now for the rest of the rule package, I make a motion to go forward with the changes that we've made with the rest of the rule package. Do I hear a
Janie Stubblefield seconds.
thank you, Janie?
Chair
And
Christopherson, does your
yes.
motion include the retention of that definition we spoke of earlier?
Yes, sir. The religious practitioner. Yes, sir. That's my motion. Janie, you second that?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. All in favor, aye? Aye.
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 All right. I think we're ready for moving on into the agenda, correct? Y'all need a minute? Christina's writing a lot.
I'm good.
Okay.
Just to clarify, LPC interns are now associates.
Well, give it a little bit of time. Hold on.
Should we celebrate that? Is that something that should be celebrated maybe?
It'll still need to be adopted by the council and then published.
Oh, Patrick, yes, I know you have to do your job. Yes.
Rain on
We got plenty of paperwork for you to file, don't worry. But let's just celebrate for a second. How cool is that?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of happy people out there. I think that's going to help a lot too. But yeah, we got to go through the process. But I know that they're super happy about that, and they've done a lot of work too on that end. And I appreciate the public comment because everybody seemed to be very respectful. And we have to hear from public comment because that's the eyes and ears out there. So thank you all to everybody that commented on all of the rules. All right, I think we are going on to agenda item number 7, discussion regarding telehealth in Texas. I will say this, when the pandemic first started and the emergency declaration, I know that Daryl's office was inundated from calls from all over, probably the governor's office more than anything, about what we're doing about telehealth. And we said, yeah, go ahead. It's in our rules. You can use telecommunication. And so there weren't any hoops or anything we had to jump through. We're dealing with educated people with master's degrees and doctorates and lots of experience. We deal with a lot of smart people. We got like 28,000 very smart people that we deal with. And so we let them use telehealth and educate themselves as to the best ways to do that. But I think it helped a whole lot of Texans to not have to wait for anything. And I commend the board for that because I know that's been, we had to fight for some of that, but it made it a lot easier. I'll certainly turn that over to Daryl if you want to jump in on any of that, but this is just a discussion. It's not a rule.
Yeah, I mean, candidly, I have not had any reports of problems from LPCs practicing telehealth, or we get a few emails here and there through the email inboxes, people asking about it. But on the whole, it seems to be working pretty smoothly. And haven't had any troublemakers come up on the radar that I'm aware of.
Right. Okay. And that was one thing we said, I guess it was a few years ago. I don't know. It all starts running together. But if we started to see a pattern of complaints, we'd be happy to address it, But right now, I know a lot of good things are happening through telehealth, and we got smart people that are doing that and helping people. And that's our goal. We want to free people up to be able to do what they're best at. All right. So if there's no more discussion on telehealth, we'll move on to agenda item number 8. Everybody good with that? Discussion and possible action related to future committee meeting actions. Christina or Patrick, did you want to take that?
Patrick, do you want to?
Sorry, I have to unmute.
Oh, no, that's okay.
So one of the things we just wanted to kind of run by you is, so as part of what moving over to BHEC is we're wanting to transition to try to streamline every process and make it as efficient as possible. And I think in speaking with some of the people on the way that they had done things, I think there was an assumption that the prior committee meetings were required to be in a public forum or a public setting. But they're not. I'll just tell you honestly, they're not. They're not covered by the Open Meetings Act, because the Open Meetings Act is when there's a quorum of the full board members meeting. And I had a discussion with some people over at HHC, and previously they had thought there was something to do with a quorum of a committee, but of board members, but that's not a legislatively constituted body that's covered under the Open Meetings Act. It's not something that's required to be an open meeting. And to be quite honest, there's some things that I think can be taken care of through email with particular board members that are on like an applications committee that we can not have to wait, have someone wait 3 months for the next board meeting to get an answer on. We can just say, hey, we just want to make sure that this coursework, we think it meets this, but we're not sure about this one course. Send an email, say, will you approve? You can give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. If you have questions, you can let staff know. Or if the need be, we can reach out to the actual applicant and have a Zoom call or something like that. But there are things that can be done over email that can be done much, much quicker. and you wouldn't have the requirement of having to have a published open meeting and have everyone attend and those sorts of things. They can be done, I think in a little bit more of an efficient process. So the one thing I would suggest is some of the committees are consist of like 4 board members. And one of the issues that comes up is if there's let's say an applications committee reviewing somebody's previous criminal history and they want to enter have that person enter into an agreed eligibility order whereby they'll be issued a license, but they have to meet certain terms or conditions or receive extra supervision after licensure or whatever it might be determined by the board members. That committee, that applications committee, would need to be recused when the order is voted on by the full board. So if you have 4 committee members reviewing that, those 4 are now recused, and now you're cutting your amount of board members that are going to be able to vote on it on the full board. My suggestion is to probably have 2 on it, but if you want to have more than that, I mean, that's obviously your discretion to a point. I just, I would suggest that moving forward, we try to a new model so that we're working all of these different licensing applications or whatever it might be in a more efficient manner. I hope that sort of explains it, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
And the board members are still, the ones that we'll be reaching out to through this whole process. So it's the same review that you guys already do in an applications meeting. It's just done outside of an open meeting setting. It's just done internally through email or a Zoom meeting or whatnot.
And so for clarification, workload might need to be spread around. I mean, we could have, one day Brenda and Pastor Roy on the committee, and a week later you might need somebody else or whatever. So you could spread the workload around. So things can be done almost on a weekly or bi-monthly basis to get these cleared up real quick, and people aren't having to wait. And I think we've got a board full of people that says, yeah, however I can help, so they're flexible.
We have found that accessing the committees by email informally and on an as-needed basis is very helpful to staff because you're able to clear stuff very quickly rather than having to wait until the board meeting rolls around.
Mm-hmm. And that could be done through like Zoom or something?
It could be. I mean, if the council, if the board members felt like, well, I really want to lay eyes on everybody, well, okay, well, we can set something up via Zoom. But I mean, candidly, what we found is most of it is that we've been able to tackle by email.
Okay. Well, that's efficient. Go ahead, Jamie.
Sure, Christopher. I am on board with that, but I also would ask that we clarify that it all still needs to go through the executive director office, and that individuals not be contacting board members individually or personally and skirting things.
You can figure that out, Jenny. Let me know, please.
Yeah.
Just making that publicly out there, that there's still channels that would be preferred.
Well, I think really this will solve that problem. I think part of the issue is that people get very frustrated when they have to wait 30, 60, 90 days to hear an answer because somebody's telling them there's this, Freedom of Information Act and Public Records Act and Open Meetings Act that says that we can't meet until we can all get together for 3 months, which I'm so happy to hear that Behavioral Health Executive Council, that Patrick, you seem to have seen the light and disagree with HHSC, which I strongly did for the past 6 years. And I will volunteer every Friday morning from 9 to 11 to do anything that you guys want, if it means we get these things solved faster.
Well,
those are famous last words of somebody. I volunteer every.
I volunteer. That's why I'm here, man. I'm volunteer.
I know that Daryl doing it at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's typically when we get his email. Oh my goodness. Fantastic. I think that will help people so much more instead of waiting 3 months, just sweating this stuff out. And we got a lot of people that can share that workload. Dr. Taylor, I appreciate that because I know that you're serious about helping out. You always say yes, even with the ISCs and everything like that. So, I like hearing that. Anything else that we need to make a motion on that, or is that go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would also mention too is if So depending on how you either want to have appointment of members to those committees or have a motion to do it, it depends on, I'll leave that to you, Chair Christopherson, how you'd like to do it. The other thing I might suggest too is have an alternate or a backup, because if you're only going to have a committee of two, somebody has to recuse, somebody can't make it, we can at least call on that backup and say, hey, it's always good to have at least two members to bounce things off as opposed to maybe one.
Right.
That was the, I think I forgot to mention that before.
Right. I like the idea of having backup. I do like being able to mix it up with everybody, because everybody's been on this board long enough to figure out what the need is and stuff. I mean, you can start with people that have been on the applications committee, but that workload would be kind of rough. So if you can spread that around, and have a backup. I know Christina can keep a good eye on that, and I'm fine for doing that and having a backup. I think that's smart.
Yeah, and the other suggestion might be too is, so the applications committee, it's very helpful to have professional members because we'll rely on their expertise at, look at sorts of things. So that's just another suggestion is so we can rely on them.
And just to clarify, this isn't just for applications. This is all of the committees. So, for professional development, where we're looking at the JP exam and all of that, all of that material will go to you before the full board meeting, and we will discuss all of that as we would in the professional development meeting. It'll happen in the full board meeting. So everything is still going to happen. It's just going to be in one long meeting with everyone.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, I don't know if it needs to go without saying, but I volunteer for anything you need, anytime, so I'm kind of flexible in what I can do. So that's a good point about the professional members on the applications. I really agree with that. All right, so what do we need? Is that just a go forth policy that how we're going to do that? Is that a motion or what?
I'm not sure how you typically pick your committee members, but if it's typically the chair appoints them or whatever procedure you typically use, if it's a nomination or whatever way you would like to do it, it would just be good to get clarification on who those committees are, and those will be the ones we go to. I guess the other thing too would be like ISCs. Are we going to have specific people that we're always going to go to for ISCs, or how you want to appoint those going forward?
So Patrick, does that need to happen in this meeting, or is that something that can just happen in the background?
Well, we just need to know that those are whomever is the particular people to handle the matter. They just need to be, picked by the board. So I don't know. My understanding is there's two, I'll call them volunteers already right now. And if those are the ones going forward, then we'll just stick with those until the board wants to change them.
So if we change them, it has to be in an open meeting.
It should probably be, it should probably be something that's done in a meeting that says that we're picking these people.
How are they usually selected?
Yeah.
Chair Christopherson selects them, but it's usually the same members every meeting, every committee.
If the chair's selecting it, we don't need to do that in an open meeting. He can make a selection on the fly.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it sounds like an as needed. You'll get with me.
Yeah.
We'll make those decisions. We got people that know what they're doing, but I also like, the idea of cross training, and workload stuff, because I know that we've relied heavily on Dr. Taylor and Steve Hallbauer on a lot of the ISCs, and they've never complained about it. But, if something were to get, too much, I want, things to be able to happen. And certainly if we're doing applications and other committee members or other committees. So we can take that into consideration as things come up. Okay.
I haven't said anything, but I certainly would help out.
And you'd be good to help out. You've been around a while on some of this stuff, Loretta. So thank you. We're definitely going to pick your brain. All right. So at this point, that's not necessarily a motion. We just go forward with that. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we can talk about agenda item number 9 and discussion and possible action related to the schedule of sanctions policy. I think Patrick came up with something. I don't think we have to read the whole thing. It basically says we can do warning, conditional letters of agreement, warning letters, things like that. You want to take that, Patrick? And
Sure. So I know this was a point of discussion in the last board meeting when we were talking about the schedule of sanctions. And it was something where we also came up with LMFT, their last board meeting. And so it was when I was reviewing their rules, I had realized after the fact that they had those on their schedule of sanctions. So we came back and they made they've amended it, and it's gone up to the council, we get published to change it. But one of the things we did with that to address it, because in all of the rules, there is a rule that says you can do a CLA, there's a rule that says you can do a warning letter. But we didn't want to put that in the actual schedule of sanctions rules. So the better thing was to do was to put it in a policy so that staff or an ISC panel can look at that policy and say, okay, here's instances when it might be appropriate to use that as a instead of putting it as a default sanction for and so LMFT essentially adopted a policy that is verbatim almost this, other than some of the rules citations and name change in there because they also got rid of CLAs and warning letters in their schedule of sanctions. So I was proposing this as to address any issues that were discussed last board meeting. If this would if it was a concern, this is something that the LPC board could adopt and could be used. The other thing I'll also add as a way of background is now under the council's rules, not every ISC will have to have board members in it. Some of them can be done by staff alone. The determining factor will be if an expert is needed, then we'll rely on the board for their expert advice. I guess the best example would be there's a records violation. Somebody sent in a request for records under Chapter 611 of the Health and Safety Code. It says 15 days. They responded within 17 days. Staff could take that to an ISC themselves. That's not something that we would necessarily need an expert on. But staff could then look at this policy and say, you were 2 days late and it was because you got sick, and something like that. They could say, okay, fine, this is a warning letter or a CLA. Whereas, if somebody's 6 months late responding, you could say, well, that's a reprimand under our 6 months is kind of, I can't think of a good excuse why you would be 6 months late. And so that's where the default would be a reprimand. But the alternative would be, somebody's providing a particular type of therapy and we question whether or not that's appropriate for that sort of patient. That's something we're going to want to take to a board member ISC and get their professional opinion on. So.
Okay. I like having that. Stephen, how about you've got a comment or a thought? What's that?
I like the policy. I hadn't had a chance to talk to Dr. Taylor about it, but I like that a lot of the procedures that we already do in ISCs is now going to be written down. And I do like the fact that we are encouraging the corrective measures prior to coming before the board in their ISC. So I would want the full board to know that we already do what we're kind of putting in writing here. And as far as, being one of the usual ones to handle these conferences, I like the policy. Chris, what do you think?
I think it's great. I fully support it.
Yeah. I would want to get this policy out to the attorneys that typically represent the people that come before us, because I want them to be aware that we are looking for these certain things, and that they can advise their clients on what will go a long way before they get before us. Once upon a time, Chris and I were talking about hosting a CE about these items, and that would have been one good way to get this out there, but that may not happen for a while. So I would want to get the word out in another way.
Good point. You think like an attorney. That's good. The more the word can get out, the better. And I've never minded driving from Houston to Austin to hear a case and there be a mitigating factor that helps us feel a lot better about it. So I think that's helped out. And I think you guys have used that heavily. Patrick, I appreciate your work in that and the wording and everything. So it gives everyone a lot more flexibility to hear all sides of this stuff. And I realize that mitigating factors can go forwards or backwards, but I like people being heard, for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I think it's important that people realize when you do take corrective measures prior to receiving any sort of discipline, we don't view it as you admitted guilt. We view it as that you're trying to be better. And I can view them as, okay, even if you're not completely admitting to what you did, you're still saying, you know what, if there was a problem, these are the steps that I've taken. And so if we get that down into writing, I'm all for it. I think it's a positive change.
Okay, thank you. And you've definitely been in enough of them. Your opinion certainly says a lot. So I appreciate all the hard work that you guys do on that. Anything else on that? Okay, is that it's policy? We don't need to vote on that, or we do, or what?
Yes.
Daryl probably might be good to vote on, right, to get their official.
Yeah. Have the board vote on it that way. It's on record.
Then I'll make the motion that we accept the policy for one person. And Stephen Halbar seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along. We have a little bit of time, so that's good. Discussion, this is agenda item number 10. I know we had, it was supposed to be discussion and possible action concerning committee reports. We were not able to do the applications, professional development, and complaints today due to a Zoom snafu or something. So something was going on, and I know that you guys have been scrambling. I know you've been working like crazy. So we don't really need to address number 10, correct? Because none of those committees happened today.
Right.
Okay, and we're making measures. We're going to get that fixed real quick and be able to take care of that certainly real quick. So I'll go on to item number 11, board chair report and update. BHEC is official as of September 1st. A lot of people said there's no way that can possibly happen, a new agency in that short amount of time. And then they met Daryl, and he doesn't know, he wasn't built with a neutral gear or a reverse gear, so he didn't know how to fail. Daryl, we appreciate all your work, and we know that you have a whole big staff behind you that have helped in countless ways. So if you just want to address that for a moment, feel free. Congratulations.
Yeah, I want y'all to know that staff are putting in far more than 40-hour work weeks here. I know you're like, well, you've only been going a week and a half, Daryl, so that's not much. I can assure you that they were putting in a lot more than that before the transition took place. You guys are all familiar with the situation of what things were like over at HHSC. You know, we're now tasked with kind of untangling that and getting it set up right. We're working on it. It's a monster, to say the least. We're doing our best, so just bear with us. If we're not as fast or as speedy on the replies to the emails, I promise you we're getting them. But remember, we didn't move one agency into another with an existing infrastructure. We've had to create a brand new infrastructure, and we're building this house from the ground up. We're not moving into a prefab house. So we're still working out the kinks on some of the database issues and those kinds of things, but things are moving along. So just bear with us. If you have questions, Mr. Luna is your point person. And of course you can get to Patrick and I as well, but we'll try to answer any questions or concerns you might have. But I just appreciate y'all's patience. And I will say this, y'all have, I've enjoyed working with this board since we began working with you. So I really appreciate y'all's approach and your demeanor and your willingness to listen and kind of take some of the actions that you've had to take, because I know some of them are a departure from how things have been done in the past, but that kind of shows a mindset that you're willing to adapt and evolve to the situation, which is going to be very critical in a transition like this. So I really appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone that helped us get to this place. It's good for Texas, and I know the nation's watching. So I think they're going to enjoy that. The rest of my report simply is an appreciation thing. Also knowing that BHEC's in good hands. Should I get a call from the governor saying, thank you for your service, here's your plaque, that we've already put in place a couple members in Dr. Taylor and Stephen Halbar that would step into any roles for BHEC. So a seamless transition would happen in that case. I just wanted to bring that up so there's no questions or anything like that, should anything like that happen. And that can happen anytime. So appreciate everything that's happened with this board up to September 1st and beyond, because it's been a lot of work, and y'all are good people to work with. So I'm not going to take any more time with that. I'm going to shoot this down to agenda item number 12, Executive Director's Report. Go ahead, take it, Christina.
Okay, yeah, so again, thank you all. It was a little stressful this morning, but we'll get through it and all that. So I appreciate all's patience and everything. Just some background information. So regarding licensing, processing times, we are running about 6 weeks across the board on all levels. Once we get 100% ready to go, I know staff are going to get everything caught up, because that's just how the LPC program works. Okay, so I'm not concerned about it. We'll get to where we need to be very soon. Staff are answering phone calls from 8 to 5. So that is a little bit of a change. It was previously 9 to 4, so we are back 8 to 5. And we're filtering those out as we can. Again, everyone just be patient with us. As everyone has explained, it's just all new and moving around, but we will get settled in where we need to be. For those of you, hopefully everyone who's on this call or will be watching this, we are now at BHEC. So the email address for licensing has changed. It's licensing@BHEC, so BHEC, licensing@bhec.texas.gov. So any inquiries or whatnot should go there. We have a lot of status inquiries. Now, again, just everyone, just try and please be patient with us. I know a lot of emails that we get are related to status. Check the website, if it hasn't been processed yet, give us a little bit more time. But sending duplicate emails is just adding extra workload. So just be, understanding that we're doing the best we can as quickly as we can, and we'll get to you. And we'll send out those deficiency notices if there are deficiencies. But please, everyone, any applicants, or pass the word of someone who may be applying soon, read the rules. It's very clear on what documents are needed. If we can get everything submitted at that one time that they submit the application, it would really cut back on the deficiencies. But when things trickle in, it just makes it more time consuming. The BHEC has been able to get us upgraded or to be able to do upgrades online. So that process is now in effect online. Upgrades can happen. You just attach the documents to the record in doing the online application for the upgrade. So that's great news. That should really help. We did lose a staff member, so we currently only have one LPC staff member who's processing applications, and that's like all of the different steps. So, she's doing the best she can. We do have a new person hired, is my understanding, and Daryl, have a new person hired for LPC, so she's in the learning phase. I have no doubt with, the individuals who will be training her, that she'll get to, or she, I haven't even met this person yet, but they will get to where they need to be. And again, I have no doubt that LPC will get back on track to where we were previously from the transition. And as everyone has explained, BHEC so far has been really good. They're related to complaint cases. We have the attorney. We just have the staff that we need to address the volume that we have. And that's been the biggest issue across the board, So I have no doubt that will get to, it'll look a lot better very soon. Those members who will be getting contacted related to complaint cases, just be aware, that there's a volume right now. So you may see, have a lot of calls or emails, but if we need to spread the love around, just let me know and we can, get that going, and I'll talk to Christofferson. But otherwise, I appreciate everything that the board members do, and everyone else. Thank you for your patience getting this going. But everything is so far is we're going in the right direction. So.
Okay, very good. Moving down to number 13, management report and update. Do we have that?
See, I know Tim was going to jump on. Let me see if he's over here.
Yeah, I was about to get sad. Is Tim not going to be doing the management report anymore?
Let's see.
We are managing and we are reporting, so that's good.
Well, I wasn't sure with the switch to BHEC if that meant that we had to fire Tim. I didn't know.
No, he's still around. He's working hard. He may be on something, you know, on a project
Good.
right now or whatnot. But yeah, I sent a message. Let me see if he answers. I guess if we want, we can skip to the meeting, next meetings, and if he comes on, then we can have him jump on. What do you think?
That's fine because we still have meeting days, public comment, and
Yeah.
Announcements. Okay.
Okay.
So
I start saying, remember, we've got to be finished by 2 o'clock.
right.
Correct. I
So
think
the
we're
next
good.
meeting. Do you have the next meeting date in front of you?
I do. So, and I wrote down the ones that were going to be proposed. So, did I send that to you?
You put that out.
Basically,
next-
yeah, I did email it to everyone. You know, the schedule is online on the website. Daryl got all of that posted for us. So there were the two in May. So May 14th of 2021 and May 13th of 2022. I was thinking of just going ahead and moving those a week up, and that's just due to graduation at the end of May. So if you guys are all on board with that, I think that's a great idea that was proposed to me. I didn't even think about it. So I think that was a good one. And then our November 11th of 2022 meeting, I believe we can go ahead and move that one up to that, or we can change it to a Thursday. The 11th is a state holiday, and so we will be closed that day. And I didn't catch that initially.
Well, we can put that in emails too. People can get back with you real quick on that. So, okay. All right. No, Tim? Okay.
No, I think we're going to skip.
Okay. Let's move to public comment because we are compressed for time.
Let's see. Okay, so the first one we have is Miss Kathy, and those of you who will be doing public comment, if you'd like to do public comment, go ahead and raise your hand for me so that I can know that you would like to speak. Please introduce yourself so that we have that for record. So the first person I have is Kathy, and I'm gonna not say your name right. So hi, Kathy. Here you go.
Hi, Christina.
Hi.
That's okay. This is Dr. Kathy Ibanez Llorente. I'm an associate professor at Texas State University, longtime follower of the board. So it's nice to see all of you via Zoom, but I appreciate all of the work that the board has done, BHEC as well. The last couple of weeks, I teach advanced ethics in our graduate class, and the look of terror on our students' faces when the websites that they started to explore disappeared. They now found the BHEC websites, which we're now trying to navigate as they learn the rules. I just had one quick petition, if this at all can be considered, that I realize that there will be new documents that will be used, but the list of LPC rules and LMFT rules as they were used, or the format before Word document, PDF documents, was incredibly helpful to teach the rules. So I don't know what format will be moved to, but if something like that could be utilized, just because the website is not very easy to navigate and certainly not from a teaching perspective. So that's just my one request, even though I realize you have tons of things to consider. So Director Spinks, I don't know if that can be on your list of things to retain from the previous board, but that would be my one tiny request.
Okay.
We'll be putting PDF versions of the rules up as soon as we get them ready.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Bacon?
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I hope your families are well. For the public listening.
Oh, looks like we lose her.
You cut out the wrong person. I think you meant to cut out Kathy and cut out Kathy.
Okay, hold on, sorry.
Can you hear me again?
There you are.
Okay, wonderful. I was just saying good afternoon. It's wonderful to see everybody. And for the public listening, I am the TCA appointed liaison to the licensure board. I wanted to just thank all of you for your commitment and remind you that your presentation to our virtual conference, our professional growth conference this fall, is scheduled for November 13th from noon to 1:30. We really appreciate your commitment. The notices are going to go out next week, and if at all possible, Christine, if you could get us a program description ASAP, that would be super helpful.
Okay.
And then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is that there is a big push for professional counselors to be able to engage in compacts, similar to what Texas psychologists can do. And so we wanted to let you know that this is a major legislative priority for the Texas Counseling Association for the upcoming legislative session. We have support at the national level as well. And so we really want to be able to try to get some work done to get this to get a bill and a sponsor for this for the upcoming legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next one we have, it looks like Jan Freeze. Jan, if you're on, it looks like you're muted still. Is it me? Did I not unmute you? Oh, there you go. Let's see. It's asking to unmute. Let's see. Jan, are you muted on your side? I'm unmuting you and it's not.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Is that good?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was
okay.
Covered up with another document. I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. Thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure. I really want to give also, as others have, a huge shout out to Daryl and his team. It's just been amazing, very, very responsive, and lo siento mucho about your technology issues. I think we're all having them. There were a couple of things that I wanted to comment on. The first is that I wanted to let you know that we worked hard to get with the Texas Department of Insurance to adopt an emergency rule requiring that insurance companies in Texas reimburse for telehealth at the same rate as face-to-face. That rule is expiring tomorrow. We're very concerned about that. I don't know if there's anything that you can do in terms of reaching out to TDI. They can't adopt the same rule exactly. We've asked them to adopt a modified rule so that we could continue to do that to increase and ensure access to services. That's a really big hot issue that I think is going to hurt a lot of people if TDI doesn't extend that. I appreciate the need for efficiency and expediting reviews of things. I am a little concerned about the change in committee meetings. You know, it's hard for people, TCA and other organizations that monitor you use that information from us monitoring your committee meetings to provide best practices and counsel to members and to applicants and licensees and the public from time to time. And I'm just a little concerned, and you don't have to answer me. I know you can't answer me now, but I hope that at your next meeting you will talk about how actions taken in those unpublic meetings will be shared with the public. Licensees tell me all the time they call the board for counsel and appropriately can't get it. So, but without us having access to that information, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to help in that process of communication. I appreciate your adoption of the schedule of sanction policy. I'm frustrated and challenged that we haven't seen that. I'm a little concerned not having seen it, how actions by staff, whether actions taken by staff in the informal settlement conferences will be either shared with the public or shared with the board. Again, I think as we move through this, I've said this multiple times in our comments, I think it's really, really important. This board has a great reputation for being extremely transparent in your actions and your decisions. And several things are going on now under the auspices of efficiency that I feel have a bit of a chilling effect on the appearance of transparency. And I caution you about that as you move forward. Finally, I just have to say we continue to be profoundly disappointed with your decision to remove the rule regarding the requirements that the board will not discriminate or make any decisions considering age, race, religion, ethnicity, sex, disability, national origin, or genetic information. Once again, I appreciate that this is elsewhere. I also know that the policy and that it's stated in your policy, but a policy and a compact is not the same as a rule. And in these times, especially in these times, it is so important that regulatory boards make it so clear and transparent to the public that those biases do not ever interfere with your decisions. And if there was ever a time when having duplicate language or redundancy in rule and policy is important, I would say that now is the time. So we appreciate all of your hard work. We know that this is a difficult process and a long road to hoe. But again, I have to say, profoundly, profoundly disappointed in that decision. Thank you very much. I really look forward to seeing you at the conference in November. And as always, really appreciate all of your hard work. And I especially want to thank Chair Christofferson, because rumor has it that this is the month of transition. And it has been absolutely delightful to work with you. And I hope that our paths will continue to cross.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, Dr. Franklin?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I only have two logistic questions just because I supervise counselor interns. One, I attempted to upgrade an intern on September 4th, and I don't know if the upgrade process was in place at that time. And it wasn't an easy process, so I didn't know if there was going to be some instructions maybe made public for supervisors to be able to walk through the new process of upgrading interns. And then my second question was, will supervisors or at least the public be notified when associate can be used for now what we know as LPC interns? So those are my only two public comments I just wanted to put out there, is just so that we supervisors are taking the appropriate actions going forward. Oh, also, Christina, is it, do they still, can they email, or you said they're going to be able to upload information during that upgrade process, so there will be no need to email the licensing at bhec.texas.gov.
That is correct.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, we have time for just a little bit more because we got to be done by 2 o'clock. Is that correct, Daryl?
Yes, sir.
I have just one more, unless anyone else pops up right now. So I got just one more.
Okay, we got time for one more.
Mario de la Cruz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Mario de la Garza. I'm the liaison.
I'm sorry.
Cruz, Garza, it's the same thing, right? The Luna, whatever. Mario de la Garza, I'm the liaison to the board for TASES. And I just want to, again, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I know the transition with BHEC and everything has been complicated, but, thank you so much. And I echo also just the thanks to the board on the work that you're doing. I do also, as I heard the discussion about the non-discrimination clause and that being not being put in, I just want to say that for people of minority status, and especially during these times, just like Dan Freese mentioned, to have a rule, to have a statement in a governing body or in a body that is supporting us and that is making rules for us of non-discrimination is so important for those Texans who are the people who get the brunt of discrimination if it at all happens, and for there to be something that says, hey, we do not do this, even if it is redundant, is always helpful for those people who are recipients of oppression and marginalization. So I just want to say that. And I also just wanted to ask, I know Dr. Taylor was talking about us celebrating associate, and that's coming to be, but if I look at the board website already, it's already there, LPC associate. So can we use it already?
No, I'll look into that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I got one more, guys. I think we can fit it in. Mr.
It has to be.
Yeah, Tom Kennedy, we'll need you to go real quick, please.
I just wanted to ask, I'm sorry, I'm Dr. Tom Kennedy. I represent the Christian Counselors of Texas, the Ethics Committee. I just wanted to ask a question. How many people have been brought to the board for violations of either not wanting to counsel someone, or if they, refusing to counsel someone and not referring them? I hear that this is a big issue, but how big of an issue is it in actual discriminatory practice that's brought before the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That doesn't happen very much. And let me assure everyone watching, if it weren't covered in 2 or 3 different areas, we would have a non-discriminant statement in our rules. I feel very, very confident that it's covered certainly federally, state, and with BHEC. So we're on the same page, and I hear with the redundancy, and that can be looked at again. That's not an issue. It's not a problem. We can certainly look at that again. Because of time and bandwidth and all these kind of words that didn't used to exist, I know we have to kind of move it all along. So we've reviewed the next board date. Items for consideration are going to come up as BHEC has needs from us. Any announcements that need board attention or action? Okay, that's item 17. Item 18, right before adjournment, if indeed there is transition. I love you all, and it's been a great 11 years. And I feel very confident if I get that call that I can hand this off, and it's going to go great. Okay, so with that, if there's not anything else, I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
Leslie would like to second.
Okay, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. And it has been an honor to serve with you, Steve. Thank you for your time and dedication.
Thank you.
Yes, Steve, I've enjoyed serving with you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Steve.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank all of you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Y'all too.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.